Hey, we are live for another exciting evening of hashtag TQIF.
Hell yeah.
The home of I was gonna say the home of Star Trek fandom, but that's what we say for Tex-Trek. So this is the home for kicking off your weekend with the Tex-Trek podcast, followed by the Starfleet Boy After Dark. We have our weekly Friday night lineup.
Thank the continuum.
Yep. I don't know if you mind, but I annexed Trek Lad into TQIF also. We could talk about it offline later if you want.
Well, we need to get Trek Yards in there also.
Oh yeah, we should get Trek Yards in there. It's true.
Then we can form a powerful juggernaut, a mighty conglomerate.
Yes.
A Trek wall of sorts.
Oh, no, I think when Trek Yards mentioned Tex-Trek, I got like 7 subscribers within 5 hours of that.
Right on.
Woohoo!
So yeah, the more we can affiliate with them, the better. But
let's mooch.
Let's go ahead and get things started with our clockwise roll call, because sometimes people forget what order we go in. But
it's by seniority. I go last.
No, we're doing clockwise. Don't throw it off.
All right. Okay, here we go. When y'all are done laughing. I'm Fathery.
This is Brian.
This is Starfleet Boy.
This is Dave.
And this is Tex-Trek.
Engage.
Welcome back aboard the Starship Texas for the 123rd installment of the Tex-Trek podcast, the home of Star Trek fandom from deep in the heart of Texas, where we talk all about Star Trek all the time. And tonight we are talking about Star Trek Discovery Season 3, Episode 5, Die Trying.
It's a dark-sounding title.
It makes me think of
the optimistic episode.
It makes me think of the Boondocks episode about Soul Plane 2, the blackjacking starring 50 Cent, and his catchphrase in the trailer is "I'll stop those terrorists or die trying."
Now that I think about it, that is a really weird title for this episode. That because we never really reached the point where our heroes are in all that much danger.
Yeah, that's a good point. It speaks to a gritty resolve, and this wasn't quite a gritty resolve kind of episode. That's like a Khan from Hell's Hard Eyes stab at these kind of.
It's oddly titled also.
We're gonna get through this podcast, gentlemen, or die trying.
This was an episode written by Sean Cochran based on a story by James Duff and Sean Cochran and directed by Maja Vrvilo. And I'm going to recap the episode right now just by reading the official synopsis, and then I'll expand on that with spoilers to quickly summarize everything. The official synopsis reads, after reuniting with what remains of Starfleet and the Federation, the USS Discovery and its crew must prove that a 930-year-old crew and a starship are exactly what this new future needs. And just to expand upon that with spoilers, Burnham commands a mission to find a cure for some diseased aliens, and through that proves the value of the Discovery crew to the 32nd century Starfleet. Or, in other words, they show up meet some new people in this new time period that are dicks at first. The disco crew does something helpful, and then those people stop being dicks and they become helpful in return. Or, in other words, basically every episode of the season.
You know, the guys who were trying to actually, I guess the miners were the people in that one. I was going to say the guy who tried to hold up the miners on that one episode, he did not cease being a dick at any point.
No, like every episode, it's like we're going to meet Book, and he's kind of a dick at first, but by the end, like, oh, he's good because we can work with him, and then we have like the miners in the second episode, or the people of Earth in People of Earth. Or the Trill last week.
I have trouble thinking of a more truly Star Trek trope than that, but
I was thinking that too. I was like, this is a very old Star Trek trope, but it's generally not something that we see like 5 episodes in a row. So I'm gonna it's getting a little stale. It's a little stale right now. Let's throw in like a Balance of Terror, or like a Trouble with Tribbles, or a Best of Both Worlds, or something that's totally.
Father, they don't got 24 or 26 episodes to fool around with.
That's all the more reason to not do the same story for your first 5 episodes.
Well, the interesting thing is that they do all sort of feel different. They're all sort of very different things going on, but that certainly is the thematic through line.
I suppose what you could do is do a story where some people are in desperate need of help and Discovery has to risk everything to save them. And that's a way to have some rebuild the Federation conflict that doesn't involve people being dicks. So I guess you could do that. So
do you think there's going to be any episodes this season that are not about rebuilding the Federation, that are, I mean, I guess arguably that there was like the first 2 episodes were kind of a getting your bearings sort of theme more than anything else, because they didn't even know that they had to find out the Federation was wrecked before they could start rebuilding it.
Yeah.
We'll just each kind of give our broad feelings and our basic reaction to the episode. And if you're watching along live, please feel free to comment and let us know if you liked the episode or not. I see we already have several people watching. Just want to say hi to some of our regulars like Alexandra and our friend PJ, and hi Jesse Gender. I'm glad you were able to stop by. But we'll just go ahead and get started. I'll go first, and then we'll just rotate around. But this episode started off. Excuse me, I'm sorry. This episode started off really interesting to me, and then it got kind of boring after that, and I kind of had a hard time figuring out why I got bored. But I loved all that stuff at the beginning. We were all looking forward to meeting Starfleet after last week ended on Adira giving the coordinates to Michael. There is kind of a strange alchemy here of things that I really like and that I thought were really well thought out. And then every now and then there's some stuff that I thought was like, kind of a stupid idea. I'll elaborate on those in a bit. I don't want to beat it up too much because I'm in general kind of in favor of the way how some of the writing has kind of changed this season. And if I'm going to complain about anything, it's largely things that I feel like have been issues in the show all along, that they're still struggling with. Some of the mystery box stuff is continuing to annoy me. I don't really see like weird humming song is going to be like any more compelling than the mysterious Red Angel. So I'm kind of frustrated that we're spending time with stuff like that. Last week, I was super excited at the ending of last week's episode. And I'm envious of Fathery 1 week ago because I was like so eager to see what happens next. And after
Fathery,
this one,
I feel like that's a summary of your fandom in all things throughout your life. Anything that lasts long enough turns to shit before your eyes. Star Wars, Marvel and DC, Star Trek.
I would say it's turned to shit. It's just that I went from being super excited to being a little like apathetic with like I don't really dread the next episode, but I'm not like super excited for it.
It is the kind of the in a way the discipline of the of serialized any long running serialized franchise is that you do have to kind of roll with the blows. So yeah, sometimes you're in the ups, sometimes you got the doldrums.
Roll out the barrels.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Brian, how did you feel about this one?
I like that we got two episodes in a row where the stakes are not save the universe high, or even save the ship high. I like that. I like these smaller. I like that when Star Trek can do some smaller stories, and sometimes Discovery seems overly obsessed with, if we don't do this, all life in the galaxy will be wiped out. So I like that that they are showing a little bit of discipline and. In that front, I loved that they didn't screw up Starfleet, and I loved that they found an interesting way to that there was some conflict and tension with is Discovery and her crew still relevant in the 31st century? No, 32nd, right?
But Starfleet wasn't. They weren't evil per se.
Yeah. They didn't screw up Starfleet, and then Michael Burnham held her communicator the wrong time, and I was like, this episode's bullshit.
She does both. She does both vertical and horizontal.
Yeah, she's just teasing me now.
Now I'm starting to warm up to the horizontal idea. I think I need to get one and just kind of like flip it around like a butterfly knife while we're talking, and pose with it horizontally occasionally just to drive Brian to drink. That's your equivalent of the. There it is.
Oh, stop it!
No!
Stop it! No. You can't. You don't deserve to wear that uniform.
Brian turned into the head of Starfleet there.
Yes. Sheer fucking hubris. I guess
Father's got the little small robots, and you've got the
communicator.
Gator hold.
But yeah, I like this one a fair amount. It was a good episode. I've enjoyed it. I didn't like it as much as last one because it wasn't one of my role-playing games, but it was definitely very enjoyable to watch,
Right.
and I felt it paid off reasonably well the what will Starfleet be like question that's really been hanging over the show since the season finale of season 2. So I thought they did a pretty good job of paying that off without feeling like a big letdown or an annoyance. So
right on.
Mm-hmm.
Starfleet boy.
I really love this episode. It's my favorite so far, and we'll see. It might be another episode that I think, just like last week, is one that you remember and like want to go back and watch again, because it did give me kind of like, this may be shallow of me as a Trekkie, but I got my ship porn, I got like my starbase porn, I got I got like a mission. I got to see the Federation hinted at, like this new dynamic where they're roommates or they live together. I don't know. It's just kind of, and then David Cronenberg was just like the icing on the cake for me. I'm not like the biggest fan of his films because some of it grosses me out, but actually, but I would say that. But I definitely
that was his objective, so he would be happy to hear you say that.
But I do love him as an auteur, and I kind of thought this was like, I know we don't mention the other Star franchise, but this was kind of like the Werner Herzog of Star Trek, right? And so I just like really vibed with it, and I'm really intrigued by that character in particular. So I did like the mystery boxes that were opened up. Not too sure about the music one, but love the Giorgio, all the mystery behind who that character might be and stuff like that. And then the Seed Vault was a cool concept. I did have some that was probably the weakest part of the episode for me, was all that stuff on the Seed Vault ship, but still, overall, pound for pound, I really enjoyed this episode.
Maybe that song is the probe thing from Star Trek 4 Voyage Home.
Well, no, because that was actually a memorable sound. On the song right now that Michael recognized.
It's not meant for you. It's meant for the sphere data.
I have always been a fan of Trek's sort of done in one episodes, and they've actually all sort of functioned pretty strongly as such in this season. And this one had like an actual, like a mission that wasn't a sort of survive. It was a let's go help somebody mission, which I'm always big on. I did feel that I don't know if it was just kind of like felt a little low stakes or something. I think I think what might have been happening where I felt slightly disconnected after. I do agree. I love the Starfleet opening. I thought that they actually lived up to the promise of seeing what Starfleet would look like, even in a compromised sense in the future. There really is. It really is this kind of beacon. It's just that they kind of have to hide out because there's enough wrong going on that they can't.
Oh, I just realized the starbase is a lighthouse.
Ooh.
Yeah. That should make you happy, Dave.
Yeah, I do like the lighthouses. I'm gonna like this or die trying.
Our listeners and audience members probably don't know this, but Dave has what I think is fair to describe as a lighthouse fetish.
Oh.
Big,
like
strong, phallic lighthouses.
I've only been in like 4 or 5 lighthouses in my life. It's not that big. But I did seriously consider taking a super low-paying job in Michigan one time as a lighthouse keeper. Is
this the Will song you were talking about?
What am I even hearing?
You're hearing?
It's from the soundtrack of Star Trek 4.
The soundtrack of Star Trek 4.
What song is that in Star Trek 4?
It's the Ballad of the Whale by the Yellow Jackets. Check it out when you get a chance.
Is it playing the credits or something?
No, it played when did it even play the movie? I don't think it did. It was just on the soundtrack for some reason.
It's that's nuts.
It has like a really stellar saxophone number.
I thought the only song in there was the one that the punk on the bus was playing. Anyway,
Alexandra nailed it.
I have a problem when sort of properties get a little too self-congratulatory, and like they tend to do it in the comics with Superman, where there'll be these stories about what Superman means to people and why there must be a Superman and stuff. And every once in a while they pull it off, but most of the time it's a little too back-patty for me. And this felt a little back-patty for the Discovery crew of we're such a bunch of misfits, but we're here to teach you futuristic sad sacks how to have gumption again, and what remind you what you forgot. And here's the thing: is at times I thought it was working, but because the episode also pushed the schmaltz a little bit high with some teary-eyed hugs and lots of wistful looks. I think I was my inner Spielberg child dried up a little bit, and I found myself a little bit resisting when Non and Burnham were talking like they were best friends, and I was like, really? Anyway, but it's a mixed bag episode for me. I liked it, and parts of it I loved. And then parts of it were just okay and were a little slightly insufferable. I call it on my 5-star scale a 3.
Okay.
I like to assign numerical things to values to things. Fathery, I know you're big into that.
Yeah, we actually don't do that on Tex-Trek.
It's too late. I've done it.
We just have a conversation that's twice as long as the actual episode, because that tells you a lot more than an arbitrary number on some type of scale. But no, we'll just go ahead and break the episode down and discuss it kind of beat by beat, and go into.
You're saying we're going to drop the beats?
Sure. Yeah, we'll have some Beastie Boys playing. Maybe that's the song that
destroyed all dilithia.
The burn.
Sabotage.
No, that's a sabotage.
Yeah,
it's right there in the title of the song.
All of this is leading up to a giant sequel that brings back Crawl from Star Trek Beyond.
Oh man.
Well, no, the episode begins with Captain Saru, which I think we all generally like, and his captain's log, and it kind of bookends with the beginning and the ending, both having him and Michael talking out the window. And it's good to establish the first officer and captain dynamic between the two of them. But yeah, they're arriving at Starfleet HQ. So I want to get y'all's opinions on. I think this was a really cool crowd pleasery moment when they cross the security barrier and we're introduced to the future fleet.
I guess
it was wild and weird.
Yeah, I didn't catch this the first time, but on second viewing, I was like, they're all hiding in a big cloaking field, effectively.
Yeah, it looks like
they're hiding their capital. They're hiding their HQ. What are they hiding from? This
Raiders.
This is not a powerful government. If your capital city has to be hidden.
I think that's very much meant to be the case.
Yeah.
That they are in a weakened state right now. That they inside there they actually seem to like. You saw that the what was he Admiral? What was?
Yeah.
Who was the head?
The CNC, Admiral Vance. But this also reminded me of like Dr. Crusher's Bubble universe at the end. By the end, this is all that's left. It's kind of
I love that episode, yeah.
I didn't like that it was so dark because I want to see, you know, I'm kind of a ship guy. I think most of us are.
Well, you know, I assumed that they wanted it to us to see enough to go like, oh, look at those strange shapes and those exotic hints of designs, but they didn't want to commit to like 20 new ship designs or whatever. They wanted it to be a little.
They've already rendered these models. We're going to see most of this stuff again.
You think?
Yeah, they're going to be using establishing shots for this throughout like the rest of the season, maybe throughout the rest of the show. However,
yeah, but that they wanted to show off they wanted the grandeur of this is like the star base essentially is what they're selling, or the locale and not the individual.
It's the Yorktown scene from Star Trek Beyond.
Yeah. Well, that was like well lit, and you could like see the designs and stuff. Yeah. Like I don't know, it was like kind of it was kind of like cock teasy to me. It was kind of like it was really cool to see the ships, but I was disappointed to like not get a good look at them.
I have always been frustrated with how Discovery lights its ships, and I feel it's gotten a little bit better.
Was worse. I think season 2 they improved.
Yeah, no, it's gotten better, but it's never still quite reached the nice even lighting that I enjoyed from say Next Generation. So.
The Voyager reveal had Star Trek 3 vibes coming into space dock and seeing the new ships. For me, like it was like it had that feeling.
I still really like the sequence, and I got the chills watching it, because to me it was more about that blush of newness, and also seeing after we've seen a kind of decrepit fallen on bad times universe. Just seeing like a couple dozen or whatever, at least that's the vibe I felt like, starships all in one place was more important to me than maybe seeing them up close. That said, if they've got if the ship designs are good, yeah, I wouldn't have minded seeing one or two of them up close and personal. But I think I see why they didn't do it. I think it would have been almost too distracting. People would have been like, oh, is that ship important? What should I be thinking about that ship? And instead we thought about the idea instead.
Yeah, I don't know. I've just seen it done properly too many times for me to say that it couldn't have been done here. But
where are you thinking about, Fathery?
Like seeing the Excelsior in Star Trek 3, or even like in the Kelvin movies, like in Star Trek 09, we get a good look at like some of the, not all of them, but like some of those ships that are at the starbase before they warp off to Vulcan. You can at least see like the profiles of those ships. Like I feel like I could go like draw the profile of several of them, whereas here, like I can't even see like the full like outline of some of these ships. Like I wouldn't be able to really remember the shape or the look of it.
I think they were trying to go for overwhelming as a theme, as an emotional point. So having them well defined and easy to wrap your head around might be working against the, oh my goodness, look at how much of a muchness it is. So
it needed to maybe feel a little alien to it.
Well, that's what Alexandra in the chat says. Alexandra comments, on an intellectual level, it fits with the theme of the episode, perspective.
I love that.
Which kind of ends up being like the big finale of the episode, a conversation about perspective. I should say that, or reiterate that I'm being a little nitpicky here. I thought.
Well, you are one of those ship guys. You more than maybe most. So I get it.
Fathery's sitting there thinking, I'm gonna need a whole new shelf for all that eagle moss.
Well, I liked the way that they described the technology on these ships, though. Dave, it's something that you've brought up several times, but we've had a concern that how will they make everything look advanced enough to be the 32nd century, but not be so advanced that it's just too damn weird. They're mentioning things like organic holes and holographic containment walls, and
I love the hollow. I love the hollow ship. I mean, I've had that idea myself, but always felt no, Star Trek's nowhere near ready for that. But in the 32nd century, sure, hollow ship sounds awesome. I wouldn't
flying
take it
rainforest, the detached nacelles.
Yeah, that was what I was going to ask if I had heard that right. That there were detached nacelles.
Yep. And it was fun seeing the crew kind of get to nerd out at these ships also, because I mean, like, that's what you would do. Like, you're in Starfleet, you work on ships, and now like you're seeing like ships from 1,000 years in the future. It'd blow your mind.
Yeah,
you're like, we're in a sucky little old time wagon now.
I do like in that slide. I hadn't noticed, but isn't that Stamets and Jet up there at the front?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. The two people who would probably be most interested in this stuff. Yeah.
But Bryce gets a communication that Starfleet wants the captain, XO, and Tal to beam over. So Saru leaves Lieutenant Nelson in command. Not really sure why. When there's several commanders on the ship, I guess just to like let her get some time in the big seat. But yeah, they beam over. We get to see this cool Starfleet HQ base. The interiors are all like super bright and slick and advanced looking, and we meet some of our new characters. We meet Admiral.
Like are they on Camino in that?
Not quite as like CGI-ish as that. Even though I didn't make that comparison, but I hate watching that part of I hate watching that whole movie, but especially that part because it just is so jarringly artificial to me when I look at it. It's like Ewan McGregor walks into a Pixar cartoon. And here there were actually a couple of shots here where it did feel like a little too like green screeny to me, but it didn't really bother me. It would be a nitpick if anything. It's a neat design, maybe a little bland. I would like some more color. I would have liked it to like pop a little bit more, but maybe this is like a little bit more bland Starfleet. They don't have like their big bright activities going on. They're not exploring anymore. They're just getting by day to day.
Yeah. How often does Star Trek do triumphant hooks? Before they roll the opening credits and theme.
Oh, usually the teaser is back in the Next Gen days, or sometimes it was unrelated, but But usually it means something menacing is going to happen.
Yeah, or at least there's some sort of this is very much the music swells, bum bum bum.
Yeah, and we got that nice, what was that? The Alexander Courage theme. It was like the most epic I've heard it on Discovery, at least.
When did they use the Courage theme? When the ship was pulling into pulling into the HQ. It was a neat way to kick off the episode. Yeah, it's like most episodes want to entice you by showing like, oh no, there's going to be high stakes danger. You better sit down and watch. But here it's like, hey, look how like cool and exciting this is, and optimistic and hopeful. You better sit down and watch and see how it plays out because it's going to be really neat and really awesome.
And then they're like we'll hit you with the interview stuff later.
Yeah, like season 1 Discovery and even a lot of other Star Trek and sci-fi writers in general would have had them beam over and a bunch of guys point guns at them and say you're under arrest, and then roll the opening theme. That's how most other shows would have done it. I think even some of the other writing staffs probably would have done it. So I like that. Again, I like that the stakes aren't absurdly high here. We can just sit back and enjoy it and have fun with it.
But they don't exactly hit it off when they arrive.
Yeah, so what did y'all think of Admiral Charles Vance, the commander-in-chief, and also his chief of security, Lieutenant Willa?
Yeah. I thought on second viewing, I was I felt a little uncertain about him, kind of in somewhat of a Lorca way, or a lot of the more season 1 and 2 Discovery kind of ways where you don't quite know what you're going to get out of somebody. And then I went back and rewatched it. I was like, I think the script, he seems scripted in one way, but the actor doesn't convey any sense of empathy. He might as well be a Vulcan. He's all business, he's all procedure, and even when he decides to change his mind and go along with our heroes, there's no sense of I don't get the idea that he really cares too much about these people who are dying in the sick bay. It's more of just, well, I'm supposed to save lives, so I guess I'm going to save lives. And I don't actually hear that in the script. I just hear it in how he performs it and the looks he gives. And I think that if you stuck a different type of person in there to perform this, you would have gotten a very different feeling about this admiral and whether or not he has a heart. Because the version we get is very by the book and doesn't really seem to have a lot of empathy, in my opinion.
That feels more like the script to me. I do kind of agree with you, but I feel like I don't think Oded Fair's personification of it was necessarily what made him a little bit dry.
I thought it was actually a little nuanced at times. But I get the impression he's just like fatigued. He's kind of like how Gary Oldman plays Commissioner Gordon in the Nolan Batman movies. He's just kind of like he's just kind of like drained, and now he's a little overly cautious, and that made him kind of like antagonistic. But then I was thinking, like, no, like given the circumstances, it's kind of understandable how overly cautious he is, and they stop it just far enough of making him into too big of a jerk. You know, he's understandably cautious. He never crosses that line.
Yeah, well, I as I said, I have no problem with what the script they wrote for him. I kind of feel like I get the idea that he's a very intelligent guy, but I don't get the idea that he doesn't seem to have any sort of emotional empathy for what the crew of the the Discovery has gone through. He doesn't seem to have much empathy for the people dying in his sick bay. It all seems like to be a game of numbers for him. And I kind of felt like, I don't know, it would have been nice if especially towards the end when he if he'd felt like he was warming up a bit rather than, well, on balance, you do seem to be an effective team. Perhaps statistically speaking, keeping you together would be better for the bottom line here in my operation. Is kind of how it felt like at the end.
I think you're onto something somewhat, Brian, but I think it's actually kind of like it may well be the intent of them is that the kind of going back to what Riker told old Jellicoe back in the day, he's like, there's no joy serving under you. I feel like that's probably been like kind of drained of these guys because they've been living under on the edge for so long that Starfleet optimism, like they are performing Starfleet optimism, but it is performative and not maybe they don't really feel it right now because they're not really, probably to some degree they're not feeling the rewards of it. They're just keeping their head above water.
Well, what's the charter there that Zephyr and Cochran came up with? The big space, the final frontier. Nobody's doing that anymore. It sounds like.
Yeah, he doesn't explore, and I think also to a degree, they just finished fighting like some sort of temporal war, and so they're kind of like suspicious of time travelers, right? Like, he even tells them.
I'm glad they brought that up. That made a ton of sense.
Yeah, he even tells them later on, like, like you guys are illegal or like whatever, like you're technically criminals. Technically,
they could actually be working for the temporal cabal. Right. They could be, Saru could be reporting to Future Guy as soon as he gets back aboard, for all we know. So
and they're like, just let us fly around with total carte blanche and do things now. And they're like,
I mean, can you imagine if a sailing ship from the era of the Civil War just showed up and wanted to join the U.S. Navy? I mean, I guess if we were in the middle of a war, we'd probably be like,
if it was old Ironsides, I'd let it come. Yeah, that's the only exception. If it was the Enterprise, the Discovery gets no love.
And admittedly, that would be the today we don't believe in time travel. This guy clearly accepts time travel as a fact, but I can totally see how, given that there are temporal terrorists, or there were, and that doesn't mean much in a plan when they have time travel, that he is right to be suspicious. Like I said, I don't have any problem with anything, the actual dialogue. I just thought it was an interesting choice for his performance.
You wanted to see his heart grow 3 sizes, or at least 1 size.
At least half a size. I wasn't sure if he had a heart. I think he needs to still check out the wizard,
Stress Free K pointed out about the Adira scene, and I thought that was funny. Like, I kind of wanted him to really like Adira more than he was like.
Stress Free K has a comment. Howdy y'all. Vance is hiding something. He was a little too hostile to Adira, perhaps concerned that Tall may try to take over, or at least know a secret he wants to keep hidden. I don't see that necessarily as true. I think it was just like again, like we don't typically have people who like time travel and there's no record of you. We don't typically have like a Trill symbiont inside of a human host. You're the first one. Right. So in his compromised state, I think he's wise to be cautious. But it is good to establish kind of a connection to the show, to the characters that will like know everything going on in this time period as far as like the way they want to handle exposition going forward. Like here we have his security staff is kind of like informing him about the Emerald Chain. So we're learning more about those Orion and Dorian
that was a
bad
cool
guys.
Thing.
They mention a character, Osira, I believe.
Yeah.
Osira has become more brazen by the day. So I think they're going to maybe tell a story about some crime boss at some point. And the Adira stuff, I could see like, after we get her like checked out of medical and they give her like a clean bill of health, I think it would be wise to have, one of like these future Starfleet people who like know everything that's going on, like on the ship. So I could see like Adira being like detached to Discovery. Cause like, okay, you have all Admiral Tall's memories.
That's true.
So you can be like their like little like helper.
I mean, she's still technically 2 years out of date, I think, right? Because that's when Tal like last was acting as a Starfleet person.
That's still like 929 more years. Or less years out of date.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of the Starfleet uniforms? Or are we going to get to that later?
We can talk about like the uniforms. Like I would have preferred
uniformity in the uniforms.
Well, that's just kind of common in Star Trek now. I would have liked a little bit more color, but we do see some white for medical. We're dealing with like the Keeley, these infected aliens. We can talk about them in a second, but we still have like red on the Admiral. It's like red as command. Yellow. We see some yellow striped. So I guess they're still using red and yellow and white.
You kind of wish that visually, the Discovery crew, if they're going to be there to kind of restore some light and hope, that by this time in the show that their uniforms had gone from being the kind of the navy blue military-like uniforms to something a little closer to Kirk and Company.
That's a frustration of mine that these old disco uniforms that I never truly embraced, that I wished had gotten replaced with the Pike and Enterprise uniforms in season 2. That those are still hanging around. That's like the one holdover. But maybe they're like really thinking about continuity. And they're like, okay, well, we have to wait until didn't Book have like one of those in Calypso? So they have to wait until like that happens, and then like, okay, now we can like get rid of the old uniforms. like didn't he like replicate or no? He made like the shirt, I guess, like the disco shirt.
Yeah.
So I don't. But I do want to see like the whole ship get like refitted. But if they're like really paying attention to continuity, which they kind of seem to be doing, then they got to wait until like they do whatever they're going to do with Calypso to have that like 1,000 years of like the ship being abandoned. I'm guessing that's going to go back in time and drop Georgiou off for her show, and then they just like, okay, well, it's over here. Like she parked it in this nebula. Let's go pick it up.
No, Georgiou is going to be Section 31 in 32nd Century.
Well, that's I don't think that's going to be the case, but
you don't think Cronenberg was Section 31 scoping her out?
I have a lot of questions and theories. Diggs, Briarthen, you're right, gold. I'm sorry, it's not yellow, it's gold.
No, I wasn't going to correct you, but I had the same thought.
I did think it felt like when you go to the Starbase or whatever, Starbase 1 or whatever it is in Star Trek Online, and everybody's running around in a different Starfleet uniform there in
it's not that
Star
bad.
Trek Online. And that's kind of what it felt like. I was like, oh, okay, that's the new uniform design. Nope, that is completely different than the last one.
Any single Kelvin
completely
movie,
different than either of the last two.
Any single Kelvin movie has more uniforms than we see in this.
Yeah, but the Kelvin uniforms are also like the locations specific. So if you're at a meeting, if you're on the ground, everyone will have the same uniform. If you're on the ship, everyone has the same uniform. Unless something chaotic is happening and people haven't had time to change clothes. And that's not what we're seeing
I feel like the variety is like based on like department or like based on function. Like I don't know. It looks like there could be like all the security people have like the weird black and gray thing that's different. All of the medical people either have like a blue stripe, which I assume they're just like some other science officer, or like a white stripe.
there might be Federation kind of security forces and personnel working side by side with Starfleet. I get the impression that like we haven't, because this is the first time I guess we're seeing Starfleet and Federation share the same space, so to speak.
Yeah, it's all been merged together.
Yeah.
So yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense actually. So I can totally see that. Do you want to talk about like the Keeley and like this these diseased aliens? Like they're so kind of like weird and ugly. Do you feel sympathy for them when you see these weird alien faces in pain on the medical beds?
I actually like, now that I see this like screen cap, yeah, there is kind of a weird ugliness, but like the way they were moving and stuff made me think they were kind of cute when I first saw it. I guess like I thought they were like I thought we were crossing into like Star Wars territory a little, but Star Trek and Star Wars can have like interchangeable aliens. It's okay.
My reaction was the masks didn't look good, so they stuck those holographic things over their faces to hide that the masks weren't quite what they wanted.
I like them. What do they remind me of? Is it Solarians in Mass Effect?
Yeah, that's true.
Bit. Yeah,
a little Solarian going on there.
But I didn't have a strong thought. This is a minor thing. Fathery, I used to kind of joke more often about like wanting after one of the novels had a Horta crewman way back in the 1980s novels.
Yeah, your Horta fetish in addition to White Houses.
Yeah, about wanting to see more sort of maybe exotic aliens. But I've kind of come around a little bit to it's kind of just not what Star Trek does. But that said, in the far-flung future, I actually do think it'd be neat to see the occasional unusual alien in Starfleet. Now that I guess they've been cut off, so like maybe that doesn't quite make sense. But in the span of among those 30 odd is it 30 Federation
39
world, 30
I think
something?
They said or something like
38.
That. Yeah,
38. Yeah. I think it'd be cool if one or two of them were a little bit not humanoid.
In the time of Picard and Star Trek First Contact, he tells Lily that it's 150 member worlds. So then it went up. We learned that it peaked at around 350, so it like more than doubled. And then now it's back down to 38, which I thought that was a cool little
bountiful United Federation of Planets.
The most depressing thing I've heard about the United Federation of Planets in this new season of Discovery is that they apparently couldn't get past 350 by the time of the Great Burn. And I'm like, really? They had centuries. And that's all they
that's 350 member worlds. That's not counting like all like your colonies, your other like secondary planets and stuff. Like I mean, like 150 is a lot. Like if you add up like every like unnamed alien species that is probably Federation and every like named Federation species, I saw someone do this in like Star Trek magazine back in like 1999 or something. It's like it was like a ridiculously low number. It's only like a few dozen. So 150 is still a shitload. So
it's more of compared to the Federation was founded in 2161, and by the time of Picard, they've got 150, and presumably the expansion rate is only one would think would increase as they have more ships exploring and making contact and more people diplomatic
on board. Scared them bad.
There's a potential there that perhaps between the Cardassians and whatnot, the Federation got a little boxed in, and there wasn't, it's kind of like today, we aren't really adding new states to the United States of America very much
based on their star charts and stuff that I'll bring up in the Gornegs. But I mean, like they've pretty much gone everywhere in the galaxy at this point. I think like everyone who wanted to be in the Federation already came in.
That's why it's depressing. It was only 350 out of an entire galaxy. It was only 350.
Well, I think that's a lot.
I think it's more depressing that they, so many of them have. How long ago was the burn? 100 years?
120.
120 years. For 120 years, they've all been isolated and starving and dealing with death.
Yeah, but there was at least a big, obvious single cause for that, whereas it feels like they just were kind of slacking off on that new life and new civilizations thing for the few hundred years leading up to it. But yeah, there could be external stuff between, it might be between the Dominion and the Borg and all we've got is whatever left in the Delta Quadrant. The Dominion has the Gamma, and we've kind of already, between the Romulans and the Klingons and the Cardassians, we've kind of divvied up the alpha and betas. So I guess, there could be something like that. I was expecting like 1,000. So,
well, I can see how you were, if you were like a smaller world, maybe not wanting to get caught up in the Federation when there are these big sort of military actions relatively frequently, that you might get dragged into, or you might become the collateral damage in a proxy war or something like that, just for allying with them.
Well, yes, if you want to, realistically, the Federation gets into way too much trouble for most people to want to join it. But just like the psychological stability of our heroes, we kind of reset that every week with the idea that overall, it's this wonderful thing that makes life better if you're a part of it. So
that which is sort of your answer, I guess, to Alexandra, who asked the question, why should all civilizations join the Federation?
Yeah.
And obviously, really the answer is their dental plan.
And a universal basic income.
Yeah,
that's the other thing too.
So one of the things that did bother me, though, like not like the variety of uniforms, but the fact that there are bow ties and neckties.
Bow ties are cool, man.
I hated
was all
that.
about it.
I hated
awesome.
that. I love
totally
it.
awesome.
Nope. That is Gene Roddenberry is spinning in his grave right now.
Don't care.
He didn't want the modern stuff. He didn't want like buttons or zippers or neckties in Star Trek. But no, like we see like the hologram Dr. Eli, which kind of establishes like, oh, I guess like artificial intelligence made a comeback, and they also like talk about how there's no record of anything of any spore drive. That sounds ludicrous. What are you talking about? And
he could also be the milkman, by the way, in this shot that you just had there. Like he could do like 1950s milkman vibe.
But they talk about how like he basically has like no reason to trust them, and he's almost kind of like saying like, think about this from like my point of view. Like Brian was saying, like there is a temporal war, and like time traveling terrorism is a thing that's been like well known for a long time.
Burnham, while an empathetic person in general, doesn't seem to actually be great at that, at putting herself in like, say, his shoes. She was just kind of like, how dare he not let us fly around and save people? We have something different to offer.
She kind of come off as a little entitled at times.
I was bothered.
She spent a whole year of her life running around doing whatever the hell she wanted. So it's probably
that's true, but
she's still probably
still irked me. It still irked me that she was so like impatient, I guess, like that she kept crossing the lines. You're trying to like, in a way, you're trying to establish trust, and I didn't think she was doing a very good job of like doing that. Whereas Saru was great, and I do love that they addressed it too. But I just was annoyed at Burnham for being too impatient.
A lot of these arcs that they're setting up, things like the song that broke the universe, or what's going on with Georgia, or Detmer's continued PTSD. I'm so like disinterested in seeing where these things go. And another one is seeing like, oh yeah, Burnham is going to be an asshole who can't follow the rules because she spent a year being this reckless person out on the frontier. It's like I'm not interested in seeing that play out, or seeing her like reincorporate back into the crew.
I have enjoyed Berman 2.0. I like her. She doesn't go too far.
Burnham.
He says, "Hey, you're going too far," and she says, "You're right. I'm going too far. I'm sorry."
I think Berman was also like Berman 2.0.
No, Alexander Kurtzman is Berman 2.0.
On a it's interesting because it's sort of a reversal of the Kirk Spock thing, where the first officer is the impulsive one and the captain has to be the kind of measured voice. You don't tend to have a measured voice in a leading role like that. It's not an easy role to fill. People do tend to prefer mavericks and rule breakers. Even Star Trek, I think, as far back as Star Trek 3, really started to get into that idea.
I guess I feel like on Lower Decks, Ensign Mariner has that territory kind of curved out and is pulling that off super well right now. So I don't want to see like Michael Burnham do Mariner stuff. I want her to do like something different, because I'm like, no, like
what kind of
Mariner
Michael
more.
Would you want? What do you think? What would you have done with Michael for season 3?
I like when she's more of a traditional first officer or science officer, and I like that she can just be like a little bit more like relieved, and she doesn't have to have like all the pressure of the universe on her. So I would just be fine with this, letting the character take like a little bit of a back seat and just kind of treat like this new time period as like her like starting. Like I would even like have this in dialogue, just have her be like, like I don't have to worry about like if my brother hates me or if I like started a war that's ruining the galaxy or like any of this stuff. It's like it's kind of like a fresh start for me now. And
well, yeah, but I guess when having both Saru and Michael both be the intellectuals who are competing as a brother and sister works when you've got either Giorgio as captain or Lorca as captain or even Pike as captain to kind of throw them into relief. But now that they're completely in the center of the spotlight, you need to diverge. They can't both be competing intellectuals, especially since Michael said, no, you get to be captain. And so the competition, that kind of you've got to do something different with their relationship to keep the energy going. And I think I don't really want to see Saru being the cowboy lawbreaker at all. So I mean, I'm not saying this is the only way they could have taken Michael, but I have yet to hear a way. I've yet to think of a better way to do it. So, and I don't think she's crossed the line in a way that annoys me.
And that being said, I do have to give her credit for when she was commanding the Discovery on the mission. I thought all that was very, very excellent. Like, I thought she was doing it really well. Her procedural kind of, knowledge and just the way that it was done. So I did appreciate that scene a lot. I loved the close-up when, she's like, let's show them what we got. Black alert. And it just like was like kind of a nice, shot. Yeah. And it was really cool. I liked all that. That was really nice.
Well, let's get to that. Let's talk about how the admiral he wants to break up the crew, and they do this interrogation montage, which I thought the Colbert bit was really funny, where he talks about like like murder will do a number on you, but I'm cool with my murderer now.
I hate to do a I guess I'd say charitable reference to Michael Bay, but this very much reminded me of the tongue-in-cheek testing and Q&A sequence in Armageddon.
That's right.
I thought some of them were like a little. They fell flat.
It was definitely tongue in cheek. It was, just the other day I was rewatching this scene from Trouble with Tribbles where Scotty gets interrogated by Kirk over who started the fight, and great scene. But it reminded me that Trek can kind of veer a little bit. I think if it's somewhat successfully into just having some humorous bits, and I kind of like this one.
I think Star Trek can do a lot of good comedy stuff, especially if you're the original series or Deep Space Nine. Then you're a pro.
Yes. I think I liked it not so much because it was funny. I mean, here and there it was, but for me, I like it when these shows take a step back and acknowledge just how weird these people's lives are. It was one of the things I loved about Stargate Atlantis, and I love it here too, that they, take a moment to say, it's been a hell of a journey.
They reference a lot of things, like Tilly talking about like their time in the mirror universe, Colbert talking about his death, Reno talking about it rating Starfleet officers. I got really annoyed though with where just like her non-compliance, and she's so like kind of like cheeky and like smiling about it, and she just repeats her name, her name, and her her whatever Starfleet number.
Yeah,
that just like it just bugged me. Like, why are you being so standoffish right now?
Because they're splitting up the crew, and she thinks that's bullshit.
I guess it's like to remind us she's tough.
Not just that, also how clever she is. She catches that they're holograms. Like, she calls them a hologram too.
Well, was it?
Which is interesting.
Not supposed to be like, I just assumed they knew they were holograms. But
maybe.
I did again. I love that we have quickly and nicely said AIs are perfectly cool in the Federation now, and we don't need to spend any more time on that. But they're there.
Yeah. Well, the last episode of Picard, they undo the band.
But we'd like to see if this how it actually all turned out. Yeah, it's stuck.
Well, Or get reenacted a few times, but always got like abolished, I guess.
Yeah, I wanted to see a line about some sort of re-education program. All of these people really should spend a few months getting up to speed. And maybe you could do some of that on the job, and maybe you can have that as your, you spend half the day working at your starship and half the day learning, taking classes on what the hell's been happening in the last few centuries. But
that's what I think. I agree with you.
I bet they're almost scared to do that because they're like, we don't want to have to show school.
No, they want to have the ship in action. They don't want to like have them like not be like out and about going on missions and stuff. So because that's what the writers want, they have to make that what the characters want, and then for it to work in context, they have to have like the characters, like demonstrate why that's not a bad idea. They have to shine a light on it.
Yeah. Thematically, I did think this was like a good concept episode as far as showing that they have something of value to bring, and they are in a very unique ship and they're a unique crew and all that. I actually do think if they wanted to show them acclimating, so that every time they see some kind of weird technology, they're not like whoa. They could they actually could do something like this very montage in a either a little bit tongue in cheek, a little bit serious, or whatever mix they want in like the next episode.
I would like some like fish out of water stuff this initial season, because the audience needs to be introduced to a lot of this stuff too. But I think like after like the next 8 episodes, and then like when we go into season 4, I just want them to be just like normal in this time period.
I think they'll do that.
The premise is new life and new civilization. There is always going to be some fish out of water with Star Trek if you're doing it right. New worlds, new civilizations. Right, but I mean, like as far as like, oh, this is a portable transporter. That's so crazy. Like the stuff. The Galactic Society in general. I agree with you. Yeah, but I don't want them just. Oh, according to the computer, this planet is blah blah blah, and it works like this. I want them to be, encountering new people and having to figure it out. So.
Well, Burnham is really concerned about the crew. She says, this has all been so traumatic on us. We're not gonna be able to stomach being separated right now. We're all we have, and she comes up with the plan to let's save the Keeley to like prove ourselves.
Now, I didn't think you guys give me a reason why you would want to scatter the crew to the four winds.
Well, I think they just wanted to take over the ship. They wanted to like. We needed the spore drive technology.
I can totally see putting a new captain in charge, but
I think they saw the tech as being more important than the people.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but the people know how to run the tech, so you'd at least keep some of them around.
You're probably desperate for officers too. So you're you'd be like, no, like I'll
we only need Stamets.
What's that?
The CNC mentioned something like we only need Stamets to show us.
Yeah,
but he actually says that. Yeah.
Recruitment is down, I would imagine. So he's probably like, you give me like I got stuff for them to do. Like, let me just reassign you where you need to go.
I suppose with it, once they automate the ship, it probably would require even a much smaller crew than it currently has. So they figure that they'll have some people sitting around. But yeah, it felt weird to me that and also if you're trying to relight the fire that is Starfleet, maybe you want to scatter the Discovery crew out so that it's their new mentality is exposing as many people as possible and infecting as many people as possible with risk is our business. If
the crew wants to do that, Brian, or if the Admiral wants to do that.
The Admiral, is what Brian. But I don't think he thought that far about it at this point. I don't think he realizes that until the Giotto thing. But I do think procedurally it does work when you have a new set of resources. Like, spread them out. Like, there's probably missing security officers, missing scientists, like, roles and things like that holograms might be filling, in this future. And we saw there none of them are quite right. Like the Doctor hologram.
I suppose if their plan is to take I suppose if their plan is to reverse engineer Discovery and they don't actually view it as a viable ship to use for ship stuff, they just want to take it apart and figure out how to duplicate the spore drive tech, then maybe we don't need the crew on it.
We're way overthinking this. We got a lot more episode to talk about.
I do want to say real quickly that I would not mind a refit or like a slight bump up in design, just something.
They got to wait till after Calypso, though. They got to wait till after
maybe even a color.
And then
a color
when does Calypso take place in comparison with this?
We don't know.
I don't think it does.
We don't know when they're tying that in.
I thought they said it. I thought they gave the date in the future that Calypso was like 1,000 years or something. I thought.
Right. In Calypso, the computer says that it's been ordered by its captain to wait for. It's been waiting for 1,000 years.
Yeah, something like that.
So what I think the theory that I came up with back then was that around the time season 2 was ending, was that the Discovery will go back in time to the time it originally took off, and that would explain how Giorgio gets back, because we know that's going to happen. Yeah. But for whatever reason, they have to send the ship back in time, and they tell it, Saru is the captain. It's probably him, but he just orders it. Like, you wait here, you stay put right here, and that way, it's like the DeLorean in Back to the Future Part 3. It's like park it in the cave, and then it's there when you need it.
Yep, just needs a new set of tires.
But I'm not sure when that'll happen, but I think that'll probably happen this season.
All right. I did really like this scene you've got up on the slide here. Again, I thought this was an excellent depiction of the new Michael that I liked. I liked that she's like, well, we could just take the data and do this, and she's like, no, we're not going to do this cowboy style. We're going to do this properly. And I really liked that interplay, and I liked the fact that we didn't do it cowboy style, because much American television.
Why would you want to steal it? Like, that doesn't make a ton of sense.
Because that's how you do things in American television and movies. That's how you do them.
Well, and one could argue that that's her career lifestyle seeping in, perhaps, where she's just like she's gotten used to kind of like what you said earlier, where she's gotten used to like doing things, being scrappy and doing things on her own.
And I think if you peel back the Vulcan training, that's kind of who she always wanted to be. I think Michael's always been this person who kind of, on some level, doesn't want to follow the rules, but she was raised by Vulcans, or by a Vulcan, and I think that affected her. But knocking out Giorgio in the pilot, and then trying to take control of the ship, that is absolutely the same person we're seeing here. Hey, why don't we just steal it? There is a underlying consistency with Michael and her impulsivity that has always been there. It's just she's not holding it in check anymore. She spent a year not feeling like she needed to be a Vulcan, and now she's kind of having to rein that back in a bit.
It took me 2.5 seasons of Star Trek Discovery and a few Tex-Trek conversations to have Dave compare to being a maverick for me to kind of like finally click with her. So I'm kind of seeing Burnham in a new way, because I was kind of, those are the things that kind of annoyed me about her, but now I see, I can see that she is definitely a maverick type personality, and sometimes it works and then you're praised for it, and when it doesn't, you're not.
I think if she had been raised by more traditional Western human culture, she would have been the big maverick Chris Pine Kirk thing,
right?
But it was because she was raised on Vulcan. And,
she would have been Beckett Mariner,
for sure.
I don't know if she would have been that bad, but yeah,
because she is raised on Vulcan, she has a bunch of like emotional baggage, but also like she's got like some cool Susmana martial arts skills.
She does have that,
and she can focus her mind to solve complex problems in a way she probably wouldn't have been able to if she'd had a different upbringing.
Some Vulcan intelligence kind of transferred over to her, maybe literally with the Sarek mind meld. But we get this conversation with Lieutenant Willow where they do just like ask for the roster, and she turns it over. So they figure out that these Keeley aliens, what's wrong with them? They have these misfolded proteins that have infected them. They were at this planet called Erna. It used to be an industrial hub for the enrichment of unstable metals, but that polluted the planet. And with the thin atmosphere, the radiation from the sun mutated everything. These people went by there. They ate some bad fruit or something on the planet. It messed them up. So now they need like the original version of that food. They need like the original source before it was destroyed by or corrupted by the radiation. And then if they get a sample of that, they can cure these aliens and no one has to die. So that's kind of the mission.
There's no warning buoys that are functioning anymore because no one does tech hygiene. Yeah, maintenance and tech.
Yeah, they needed some warning buoys to keep them away from there. But
yeah, it's crazy.
This is SETI Alpha 5.
Sulu's not out there. The Sulu's not out there charting gaseous anomalies.
So they get the idea to go to the seed vault, which is kind of like the real world thing in Norway, where they actually like store the legacy seeds of all of our produce.
That seems to have come up in conversations recently. I think especially with environmental problems looming, and so I thought it was neat to see a future-y version of it.
But so this guy, he doesn't want them to just run off on their ship, but they agree to let them go in exchange for Saru standing behind. I guess like the one time where he comes off as like weirdly menacing is when he tells Michael Burnham, we'll like hurry up and go take care of this, or like Saru gets her,
yeah. See,
he sounded like he was kind of like threatening.
I felt that was supposed to be delivered as a bit of a joke, like, okay, I'm going to trust you on this one. Don't disappoint me. Or I'm going to fry your Kelpian, kind of, joke. It was supposed to be I felt like it could have been delivered as a bit of humor.
Right.
That maybe this guy has a heart. Maybe he's warming up. Maybe he's going to give you one chance to prove yourself. And he wants you to succeed. I think he was
genuinely concerned, and he was like making a somewhat genuine threat.
Well, yeah,
maybe it was
portrayed. That's how it comes off. That's why I say I feel like I wanted a different actor performing this script,
or maybe a different director, maybe some different direction.
Yeah, sure.
But this is Michael's first mission that she commands, so it was cool to see that. She's got a babysitter with Lieutenant Willa and some security personnel, but it is cool what Starfleet Boy you mentioned, where she kind of like shows off to her, and it's rewarding to the audience to be like, oh yeah, like these people are like they're about to see what the Discovery is all about when they do like the black alert thing, the spin-a-rooney move.
Remember back in
that scene, I was like all about it.
Remember back in season 1, and we were all like, a fucking spore drive, and now we're like, yay!
By the way, that's a comment I had, is that the weight of the spore drive is pretty epic in this. Like, it does make you realize they have a great advantage when you.
Yeah, it's not like I think they've this weird anomaly. It's not like this weird anomaly where we're like, does this fit into what we know about Star Trek? It's like here, it's like, oh yeah, this place has like a perfect niche that it just fits right in. Like we have like a universe where like warp drive is broken. Now, like, how does the spore drive impact that? Like it's very functional from like a story standpoint.
The Discovery is like the Philadelphia experiment of Star Trek.
I just caught this could be, and I don't know if they're actually thinking that way, that this is we ran out of fossil fuels. Dilithium is almost impossibly hard to find and super expensive now. And so we can't drive our cars. And then we come along with this new solar-powered or mushroom-powered car.
Right, it's like bioenergy sort of
thing. And I hadn't thought about that, but
Mr. Fusion.
I don't know if that's something the writers are going to lean into or not, but you certainly could.
Since they did do a story about how the mycelial network was also threatened by their use of it, just as if it were a fossil fuel with problematic implications. Yeah. I still want them to address that at some point. They brought it up.
Yes, absolutely.
They did bring it up. It's true.
So let's talk about the actual away mission, or is it a away mission or landing party now? Because
boarding party.
well, I guess boarding party. But normally in the 23rd century we say landing party.
Yeah.
And in like the 24th century and onward, you hear like a away team.
Yeah.
So what do we say? This is a 23rd century crew in the future, so I don't know if I should say like the away team or
what did they say? Did they don't really specify?
I don't think they name it, but yeah,
the guys who drew the short straws. That's what it's called.
They go to the seed ship. It's stuck in an ion storm. They gotta pull it out with a tractor beam, and Detmer is, barely able to do that because she's
I like that they haven't
problems.
dropped the Detmer thread.
See, I hated that. I was pulling my hair out. I'm like, I'm so done with this. This is uninteresting. I want this to be over.
I don't want them to make it a big deal, but I like that. No, she doesn't just talk to Culber and suddenly she's fine.
Yeah,
put someone else at the helm if she's gonna endanger the mission, and don't put this pressure.
She gets the job
don't put this pressure on her.
So Culber clearly seems to be looking out for people. If Culber didn't think she could do the job, I'm sure Culber would have met with Saru and said, "Hey, you need to put her on a lower stress job for a little while."
Not just that, I like how the CNC knows that she's wildly out of her baseline, and they defend her anyways, and they're like, we'd put our lives in her hands anyways, because sometimes stress does cause you to snap back. Also, the converse happens. Not sometimes stressful situations can cause you to focus on your work and do things really, really well. And I think that Detmer's a really interesting character. I don't know lots of veterans, but there are some friends of mine who are veterans that when they came back from war, I feel the vibe is very similar to that.
I think Father, I agree with you in the sense that they're building it up into a kind of what seems like a little bit of a cheesy mystery, when something that's as sort of potentially serious as PTSD, if that's what we're to interpret it as.
They've pretty much told us that that's what it is.
Yeah, I'd rather see that explored with a little bit more depth and nuance. I'd like to see her talk, more conversational scenes, and less, oh no, is she going to crash this ship because she's crazy? I think that they could be. I like the idea of them handling it somewhat at length, but I wish they were the writers. I think were more adept at that.
I don't know what type of satisfactory conclusion they're going to build to with this. And for me, in the meantime, watching it's not very entertaining to watch.
They threw in something interesting about Detmer associating herself with being macho, which I really liked. And I think that's what's coming into play with her not talking about it. I think she's defying the regular sort of stereotype.
That was the climax of last week's episode, is that she was going to talk about it.
No, but not that she's open. She's admitting she has a problem. But I like what Brian said, where it's, we don't get the it didn't just go away. I do that was a complaint of mine in TNG, after the episode The Child, how Deanna Troi, the next episode, she's just, oh, well, this traumatic experience, it happened, and, months could have passed and you don't know. But
if they're going to draw it out, do something interesting with it. Don't just show us the same stuff again and again.
Well, I think it would be a little weird if that episode is three more down the stream, if she's normal for 3 episodes and then suddenly it's back again. But it might just be on where it fits. They just want to remind us that there's still something there, but then we're moving on.
I was just fine being told oh, she's going to talk to Culber and he's going to help her out, and I was fine. Okay, I don't need it brought up again.
See, especially given that the message of that episode was we're not okay and that's okay. Right. Having it be gone the next episode would have been it would have annoyed me.
I think, Father is I'm somewhat with you there, but I think basically Father and I just wish it were more compellingly told if they were going to keep it around.
I think you're looking for an evolution. I think you're looking for an evolution, whereas it feels like it's the same thing happening.
Okay, fair enough. An evolution would be nice.
Father, this scene that you pulled up reminded me of the Genesis cave on a purely visual level.
Well, I did want to talk about the tractor beam scene. If you could rewind the slides just a couple to the scene where the Discovery's hanging above it and it's shooting the tractor beam down at the little ship that I think it's 1 or 2 back from there. One for it. That one. That ship is tiny. That thing's like a couple of runabouts.
They could stick it in the shuttle bay and haul it around. I wish they had made it a bigger ship.
Well,
what we see of the interiors.
We know that in the future they discover how to make ships bigger on the inside than on the outside. The Enterprise found that time pod with that, and that ship was bigger on the inside. Now nobody mentions that. You think somebody would say that, but I don't see how you fit all the rooms and corridors we see in the episode into that tiny ship. And I don't know why they made it so small. It could have been double the size of that, and at least things would have kind of worked.
It was a little odd. I think that actually may just be kind of production design minor issues. But I don't know. It seems like, something you'd want to have as a larger ship.
Yeah,
I like
I don't know.
I like your theory about bigger on the inside.
Yeah, are we going to get to see those? What happened to the bigger on the inside than on the outside technology? I think that would be a
what
great
year
thing.
was that from? That was Enterprise season 2. What was the name of that episode? It's the one with the Tholians.
Yeah, the first time we see the Tholians.
If anyone watching live knows, let us know in the chat. But they basically find a TARDIS in space with a dead time traveler in it.
But all the time travel tech is apparently before the 32nd century, and they kind of imply that with the fact that Daniel's has files on that ship pod, and so they should have that tech, or there should be a reason why they don't have that tech. Like, well, it's against the temporal prime directive or accords or something to do timey-wimey dimensional portals or something, I think that would be a great way to show how advanced the future is to trot that out at some point this season.
Well, let's talk about the interior of that ship, which they mentioned the Barzan, Non's people. They joined the Federation, and which was cool to acknowledge because of Next Generation, when the one time we see that species before Discovery, they were clearly not in the Federation. So I'm glad that they pointed that out. And
did we find out that both they and the Kelpians had joined in this episode?
Correct.
Yeah. In the past that they had joined.
And then they stuck around, unlike Earth or the Trill. These people are still there. But they rotate manning this ship. For whatever reason, they don't specify, but there has to be someone on the ship to maintain it. It was a Barzan family that was last on, and it has a Barzan atmosphere, so Non gets to take off her breathing tube, and it's like her eyes change to be more normal, but Culber and Burnham have to have like these holographic helmets and their own oxygen supply. They're on the ship, and there's this weird distortion kind of following them through the jungles. It's all overgrown with plant life on board this ship. There's holographic recordings of the Barzan family that was here. We get to hear Barzan language that they developed for the show, and one of the Barzans, when we see their little family game night, one of them is humming the same music that Adira was able to play on the cello from, I guess, Greytall's cello skills, and then Sina Tall's childhood memories of this lullaby. And so, Burnham's there's this recurring song, which, okay, this annoyed me for reasons I kind of already mentioned. I'm not again, this thing is supposed to be kind of like an enticing hook. This is kind of like a bad wolf of Doctor Who or something like that. Yeah. It's I'm not interested in this. I don't want this mystery. I can't possibly imagine there being a rewarding payoff to it, and it makes me a little nervous. I'm braced for being frustrated with something stupid with this.
It does feel like a Doctor Who plot element. Would you have liked it if it was a badass song like All Along the Watchtower?
Well, it should be something memorable. For something to be this important, and for something that Burnham comments on it being familiar, they should have just gotten something with a familiar melody. It's not that hard, and that I don't see. Yeah. I think that's a pretty big fuck up.
Here's my question: if Burnham is an observant person, but if this song is really through some bizarre means recurring throughout the galaxy, I can't imagine that only a person from her time period and with her particular set of skills would be the first person to notice.
Well, it's a double-edged sword because
it didn't require any special knowledge of hers. It doesn't make her cooler for having figured it out. She literally was just oh, hey, I think I've heard that before. She mentioned it to somebody else, and they were
maybe it's in the ether. She said, Willa says maybe it's in the ether. Yeah.
But it just seems it's not a cool mystery if you only solve it by just happening to oh, hey, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, it makes me sad. I don't want to talk about it much now because I feel like we're going to spend a lot of time in the future talking about it. But
you always remember a lullaby in the comments. That's kind of interesting.
I mean, I have to admit, it just seems did they say that the song was created recently? I mean, if it's a 400-year-old song, everybody might know it,
Well, Sina Tall looks pretty old, and it was something he heard from his childhood.
Yeah,
I don't think it's going to be a red herring, but it may be a red herring. You never know.
It's clearly not. It clearly does mean something because they said it, but I have to admit, I don't know why Michael would be reacting the way she does to it. I would think she'd just say, well, it's a few hundred years. It predates war. It's back when there was a subspace network. It was probably a greatest hits thing 200 years ago or something.
I did like Colbert kind of being like the ship counselor still, and commenting on Non. He kind of sees the excitement that she sees, and like getting to see some of her own people and hear her own language. Oh, I thought her remark though was pretty stupid when he says, "When was the last time you heard your own language?" And she says, "Now." It's kind of like, well, no shit, now. Like I'm hearing it now with you.
That's one of those.
She's busy. She's busy grokking on the moment. She doesn't want to go think about all that time ago. She's
it's
like
a very Winnie the Pooh kind of segment, kind of thing. That sort of. It's kind of a Zen thing. But yeah, it was. I mean, she was meant to indicate she was in the moment.
Yeah,
I really got the vibe that she was cracking a little bit too. That she really seeing actual Barzans, knowing they're in the Federation. This was like a little overwhelming for her emotionally. Like I think I bought into the whole her wanting to go back to and finish the watch, so to speak.
Maybe she's actually regretting the whole I'm going to go on Discovery and go to 930 years in the future thing, and maybe she's realizing that this is not where she's
regretting joining Starfleet to begin with. She said like her family didn't want her to do that. They were devastated when she joined, and now she'll never see them. She thought like she'd never see her planet again. I also I thought like the use of like the holographic logs was a way to make it feel a little bit more futuristic, where like holograms are kind of from what we know from like 24th century Star Trek have been around for a while, but even still, like back in those Berman days when they were reviewing log entries, it was always like videos on a screen, but here it's like actually like full blown hologram. But yeah, it was
the Geordi episode where he's holographically reviewing recordings, where Geordi turns into a weird alien and his eyes start working again for no reason. So we have seen something kind of like that before.
I kind of expect by this time period, this is the thing, while there's certainly room for explanation for inconsistent tech, but I kind of expect hollows to be perfect by this point. No
hollows.
Beams of
Another thing that annoys me is every time they call it a hologram a hollow in this episode, I was like, quit doing that. You're making it sound like that's like a common thing that people have always done. Like it's not.
But but they should be perfect. There shouldn't be beams of light.
It's probably out of alignment. Nobody's been properly taking care of stuff.
Fair.
If this was a fully operational ship and it had those streaks, I'd agree with you. But the ship's kind of falling apart.
They also have to let us know that it's a hologram, and it's not like the guy is like there. But
they usually just do that by having somebody walk through them. But okay. Does anyone think it's weird that they went over to a ship specializing in seeds and stuff and they didn't bring the spore guy?
Mushrooms and plants are very different.
You don't think we keep seeds, we don't keep spores. There's no fungus on this whole ship. Yeah, I'm sure they've got spores on there too. It's not a huge deal.
I got the spore I needed. I'm done.
Yeah. I just thought it was a little weird that they have a guy who actually grows spores and fungus, and they're going over to a ship that stores seeds and spores, and this guy doesn't come with them. But
let's talk about Dr. Addis and his log entry. There was something bad that happened. We see him, he's like upset. He's talking about like his family and everything, and there's like this weird distortion on him. We'll eventually learn that he's kind of like out of phase from a transporter accident. He has his family in cryo storage, in like these little like cryogenic tubes, like space seed style, except they're all dead. They're just like frozen corpses, and it's kind of
he didn't quite pull off the Mr. Freeze of freezing his ailing wife.
Little late, Dr.
Missed
Addis.
the deadline.
Yeah,
but he's like this like scary ghost thing, chasing them around. Like when Burnham goes into the seed vault and she can't access the seeds without the the voice confirmation password thing. But like he shows up in there and she tries to, I guess, karate the ghost, but he vanishes. So they're not sure what's going on, and they have to like call tech support back on the ship. They have Stamets and Reno and Tilly, sciencing away in their lab, which was cool to see. And they basically,
It's a shame there's no record of a prefix code for that ship in Starfleet.
Yeah, that would have been really handy to have right now. But
there's probably a limit to just how much that admiral trusts them. Though I suppose he could have given it.
I'm not
going to
give them the prefix code book and let them just take over all of our ships,
or even that one ship.
Just for the one ship. I mean,
yeah. Well, in theory, the ship had a crew on it, right? They weren't. They were expecting to find a fully cognizant.
It was just one family, I thought.
Yeah, but whatever. That's the crew. The family is the crew. But they were expecting that there would be somebody there who could open the door for them. So.
Yeah, but
I wanted to know what the mission of the seed vault is. Does it just like float around and travel?
Just like store seeds.
Well, I assume they rendezvous with other ships that have brought new seeds and put them, so it probably buzzes around, meeting with other ships and getting more seeds, which is nice that Starfleet is still spending the money on a project like that. It says something about Starfleet that they're still storing seeds, even though dilithium is so expensive.
Like our seed vaults in Norway in a bunker, it's pretty secure. Like you'd have to this ship could get destroyed by an ion storm.
I thought it was weird. Why does it need a crew? I thought it was weird that it needs someone on it, and I wish they would have just made up a reason why, because we don't know.
I would have liked Brian's idea. The bigger on the inside would certainly explain why, and then maybe it for some. I just.
Why does that explain why? What does that explain?
Well, I think you couldn't. Maybe the seed vault's so big that it wouldn't even fit on a planet, perhaps. But you need the ship to be out, in some.
Right, but why do you need someone on it? And it's important to the plot. It's a very important.
Why not have somebody on it?
Why is it necessary? Why is it all these seeds are at risk if there's not someone on it?
I would think security would be more important, having phasers or cloaking technology and stuff, because the whole point is to preserve these things, and
it might have those
driving
things
around that anybody could hijack.
They make a big deal. They make a huge deal out of someone has to stay on the ship or we lose this part of Federation history.
You're asking why do they have to leave somebody on it, not why does it have a crew?
Why does it have to be manned at all times?
Okay, I misunderstood you.
Why can't you put it in the shuttle bay and spore jump it back to your HQ?
Given how small it is, I would have thrown in a line about how the ship's a little messed up and somebody needs to be kind of babysitting it because some of its systems are not working like they should.
That's all it needed, was something like that. Yeah, let's go ahead and just run through the rest of this, because I'm already getting bored with this.
Sorry.
Stuff like I was when I was watching.
I said I had a lot of questions. I had a lot of questions.
Well, I did wonder at first, how come the fancy pulse didn't kill all the seeds? But then I realized,
that's what I want to talk about. Is the pulse that killed. Right. They figure out there is a coronal mass ejection from a nearby star, but we don't see it near a star. It's in this ion storm. So I think if the storm wasn't there, we would see. If it wasn't for the storm, we would see a star or something.
Well, if you're out by Jupiter, the sun doesn't look like much, but
not only that,
or Saturn, So
I also think the show wasn't clear, but the coronal mass ejection happened. They said something a few weeks ago or something like that.
6 weeks ago.
6 weeks. I think the ship drifted into the ion storm, and that those ejections from the ion storm were just lightning bolts from the ions. They were just ion bursts. So it was two separate phenomenon going on. So
the ion storm might be a side effect of the coronal mass thing too. They never really explain how you get ion storms in Star Trek. But.
But they happen.
This is a weird invention of the original series that I like. I just like ion storms. I like that they use it. But so they basically figure out what's going on. Lieutenant Will is oh, you're not all idiots. Okay, so that's cool. But so they come up with this plan that's kind of messed up. They kill the power to the frozen family so that he comes running in there oh my God, what you're thawing them out? Oh no! But they're well, they're already dead, so no harm, no foul. They use the transporter to fix him, so he's not out of phase anymore, which. Wouldn't it be funny if he was making that annoying noise that Boimler made on Lower Decks when he was out of phase? I guess they wouldn't have had him sneaking up on them, sneaking through the corridors, but it would have been hilarious to see that again.
This did get me wondering Can they use transporters now to bring the dead back to life like they did on the Armand Bashir on Deep Space Nine? Because they were clearly just about to have the technology that you could save a human and create a copy just by pushing.
Yeah, they just didn't have the computer bandwidth to like store them.
Yeah,
so,
but this is the 32nd century. That should be around now.
That's interesting. Or we could just say it was lost in the burn, because that's really weird if they can just like stop any death with a nearby transporter.
Well, there might be some sort of laws, ethical laws about copying people that also might be involved. But so far, they haven't said they can't do that on this new Starfleet.
But yeah, they get this guy, get him back to being solid and corporeal and in sync with the rest of the universe. And Non kind of tries to have a heart-to-heart moment with him. And again, like more Culber. Like I wish they could have gave Counselor Troy some like this, like useful stuff to do as a ship's counselor. But I think Culber functions pretty well in this new role they're carving out for him. He says, Burnham, you need to be the one giving the bad news, because Non is, like she's too close to this, and she's having a hard time, I guess like breaking this guy's heart. So then Michael has to be the one to give him the bad news.
That really weirded me out for quite a while. I was like, so we have somebody who's apparently the Barazans have a very distinct view of life and death.
The show doesn't get into, so that's annoying.
Yeah.
And then we have out of that and don't explain it.
Yeah, well, there's so much going on in this episode. This is why the whole seed ship thing feels a little underwhelming, is because we have to go there, set up the rules of the place, solve the mystery of the place, and get out in this tiny little bit of space, because we've got to get back, wrap up the A plot. But,
have a transporter ghost chasing them, like in that Enterprise episode.
Yeah, but I thought it was weird that we have, on one hand, we have I forgot her name.
Commander Non.
Non, yes, Non. We have Non, who is apparently not all that she at least doesn't think she's too culturally divergent from these other Barazans. And she's apparently not qualified or able to convince this guy. And then we have a medical doctor who has no doubt told many people that the person they love or care about is dead, and has no doubt been trained in how to do that.
He should have done it.
Yeah. And the only thing I can come up with, this is the second time Culber has come up and said, Michael, you're the person for this job.
He's trying to do it to like fix her, like help her.
That's my at least that's my headcanon until they tell me otherwise, is that it's actually about fixing Michael. It's not about, not so much about, clearly she's supposed to do good things for other people, but
actually, I don't know if any of y'all have ever been in like the situation, but that actually is like one of the suckiest things to have to do, is either tell someone that like their loved one is dead, or their loved one is going to die, like terminally. Like I had to do like both of those two things, and it's like it's like it like haunts me now, like thinking about like how
I don't think I've ever
that was.
Thankfully had to encounter that. That's really horrific.
I had to tell my first girlfriend that her best friend was dead, but that wasn't fun.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah.
I like what Diggs Briarthorn is suggesting, and I would like to see this more in Star Trek in general. I do think that even, obviously it's a TV show, it's geared towards humans. We're the only things we know is humans, so I get that part, but I do want to see more alien perspectives, and this was an opportunity that I thought where it was kind of like taken away from perhaps Non and getting an alien perspective, and maybe not getting the typical kind of maybe Barzan culture is not about breaking it to you. Maybe it is about like doing it in a different roundabout way, and so I thought like that would have been an interesting different take. But I do like what Brian said and you said. I do think that I didn't think of it that way, and I agree that Culber is putting her into these situations to help her and help fix her and kind of like help her grow, rather not fix her, but for her to grow, and I like that.
But luckily he does listen to Burnham. He does reach that level of, I guess, acceptance. He's accepted the reality of losing his wife and daughters, and then he's willing to help them. He gets them the seeds.
He
And
gets them the dumbest password ever. They could have figured it out in like 5 minutes if they just tried on their own. What do you think his password would be? Well, these are the names of his family in these cryo things. Let's try that.
It's weird that 2 moons led to the answer to this password, and 2 moons lead to Soji's homeworld. So I don't know what's going on with the 2 moons.
Somebody got really influenced by Tatooine in that.
They cram too much onto the seed ship, because like it's kind of like in comedy writing, you have like the term like hat on a hat. Yeah. Where like if you kind of can't tell 2 jokes well at the same time if they're both like too weird and kind of too like their own thing. Because like now they have like the moral dilemma of like, well, he doesn't want to leave. He's going to die from, I guess, radiation burnt up his internal organs. He's going to die if he doesn't get treatment, but he wants to stay here with his family. Because Barzans have like these weird views on death that we're just going to tell you, but not actually explain to you. So yeah, I think they kind of have like too many ideas going on here to like really fully realize any of them. But I don't think we have time to like go into the moral dilemma, but Culber beams off with the seeds to work on the cure, and we get this heart-to-heart between Michael and Non, where basically she says, okay, well, someone has to stay here. He's going to stay here and die, and I'm just going to stay here and like bury him and his family, but I'll take care of the seed ship.
I like to think he's not going to die, but yeah.
That was the whole thing. Like they tell him that. They're like, if you don't come back to Discovery and get treated, you will die.
I thought they did take him back. I thought that's what that's how I interpreted Michael's statement at the end is, okay, you're going to stay behind. We're just going to force this guy back to Discovery and fix him. And then if with the underlying assumption that then if he wants to off himself, I guess that's on him. But
so I thought it was like Non, saying like, well, you can't just kidnap him. I thought like Burnham's thing was like, yeah, we should like cure him, and then like, I guess. Well, I don't know. I don't think it's really clear at all now that I'm talking about it.
The way Michael talked, I thought for sure they were just going to force him back onto Discovery and treat him. And because she doesn't say you're going to stay behind with him, they just say you're going to stay behind. And so there's no context of her not being alone.
Why was the Federation's past going to die? Because I felt like they needed him alive to like man the ship. So
she's going to man the ship, I guess. But
yeah, but like Michael didn't like know that initially. So I thought like Non taking over the spot on the ship was to like allow that guy to die, because they make a big deal about like not wanting to like not heal him against his will.
Given that I watched the episode twice and I'm not entirely sure if I have the right interpretation, that part of the episode was definitely poorly written.
And that's why I say this show does not prioritize clarity as much as I wish it did.
As a side note, before we get too far away, I was annoyed at first that the seeds weren't killed by the pulse, but then I realized they're probably safe inside the vault. The whole point of a vault is to protect something. So,
and there's no door on it. I like that. Yeah, you have to beam into it. I thought that was a smart idea. That was smart.
If he just beamed in there a few seconds earlier, he wouldn't have had his phasic stuff all messed up at all. He just would have been in the vault when the pulse hit and been safe. Well, his family died. But
yeah, we kind of have like this more like forced endearment, forced emotion of Burnham and Michael saying goodbye. But it is what it is. That's the show.
Do you think that? I mean, they're deliberately writing her out here. This is not like Nog going to Starfleet Academy where, he's coming back.
I think she'll be back because they keep putting the actress's name in the opening credits of episodes that she's in.
So figure the seed vault might play some big role in something later on.
Yeah, I mean, they have a spore drive, so they could always just pop on over and visit whenever
they want. Watch the holographic family.
It makes you wonder, like, why does she have to do? Like, they could like rotate out. They could be like, okay, today it is Tilly's day on the seed ship, so we're gonna spore jump over there, and Tilly, you spend a day on there, and then tomorrow we're gonna come back by, we're gonna pick you up, and then we're gonna put Stamets on it for a day.
I would just put somebody on there to fix the thing so that it doesn't need constant manning, but that's assuming that's the reason.
They interviewed the actress on this week's Ready Room who plays Non, And
Yeah, that was great.
I enjoyed listening to her talk, and I felt bad that her character seems to have been written out. But yeah, I suspect we'll see her show up
it's
again.
like book. It absolutely coming back. It's just a kind of narrative thing they're doing here.
Yeah, I think we shall see Non again. I'm not sure exactly how or why, but I think it'll happen. But yeah, the conclusion of all this, the Discovery jumps back to the HQ. Colbert made the cure. The ugly aliens are going to live. So everyone's happy about that. Now, while all that was going on, there's this other little B story with Giorgio. What did y'all think of the stuff with Giorgio and a very weird guest star that I was not expecting with David Cronenberg?
Has he done other acting roles, or is he just a director?
No, he has. I looked it up. He's been in a bunch of.
He was in The Fly. He had a very small part in The Fly.
Well, I mean, aside from absurd cameos,
yeah, he's shown up in some of his own movies. I didn't know that he like. Oh, and he was in the Friday the 13th movie that's in the future in outer space. Jason X. Yeah, he's in that.
Well, he's apparently not super.
That's
picky
where
about
I've seen that guy. Okay, he looked vaguely familiar. Yeah, we watched that at a bad movie nerd night thing.
I'm sorry.
Did they say why? Did they ever specifically say why Giorgio was getting this specific interrogation that was so different from everybody else's?
Because everyone else is in Starfleet, and she's a dictator from another universe.
I noticed they started calling her. They called her Terrans. They were referring to just calling her Terran, right? As shorthand for Mirror Universe, even though not everybody from the Mirror Universe is Terran.
Yeah, well, they started in Discovery Season 1. They referred to the Mirror Universe humans as Terrans.
It was throwing me off because I've so often heard Terran just for, know, if they're not actually in the Mirror Universe, it's a little weird to me. But I liked the scene quite a bit. I liked her kind of almost pulling a sort of more guileful version of Kirk taking down robots with the holograms.
I thought it would have been cool if she like logicked them to death, but instead like she looked so dumb just like blinking, like the way like she kept doing like that blinking, and that is what like disabled the holograms. I hated that. I really liked the scene. I liked the performances, but that was so stupid. And
as a Doctor Who fan, I was fine with it.
Yeah, me too.
I assume that she had made some like Sherlock Holmesian deductions and put them together.
If you're gonna have characters do really smart shit like that, you have to write something really smart. Just don't be I figured out blinking and turned them off. Like that's not a smart idea.
I noticed something weird on the second and third go. I watched this episode a few more times than I usually watch Discovery, but I thought that like she was kind of like getting interrogated, and then she looks over and they're like, "Don't look at him," and he kind of gives her a weird blinky thing too. Maybe he was blinking a message to her, or that maybe like prompted her. I don't know. It was like there's some blinky weird things going on. I don't know.
This is like, I think that Grudge is actually not a cat. I think it's actually something else. It said that she's a queen. Like, I hate this. I hate like the show is now like trained the audience to look for like clues for all these mysteries, and I despise that.
I love the scene of them together, and the eye blinking didn't bother me, but I thought they played off each other well. I thought it was really well written. I thought the acting, I liked the subdued, low-key delivery of all the lines that seemed to have this a whole lot more going on with them. I have to admit, I hypnotized or possessed Giorgio is not something that sounds fun going forward.
Yeah. It's another one of these arcs they're setting up that I'm just disinterested in.
I was glad that we were moving away from that stuff, and especially with both the song and the possessed Giorgio. I'm kind of like, pick one, guys. We don't need two of these.
Both of those things, and then Detmer's PTSD, and then like Burnham's dysfunction. Like all of these arcs are
see Burnham being wildly dysfunctional by Star Trek standards, especially after we've got through Lower Decks. She seems to be a model Starfleet officer to me, but.
I think that this character is one of the most intriguing characters I've seen in Star Trek in a long time. I do like that he represents a kind of foil to Giorgio, and even though there's a lot of wild theories flying around, I kind of hope he's just Starfleet intelligence.
Yeah, I don't want him to be
like
I don't want
would
him to
love
be
it.
from the mirror universe also, and that's why he's
Yeah, I
wearing the
just
glasses.
kind of I hope he's not Section 30. I mean, it's all cool.
Yeah, I don't want Section 31.
Well, I'm
in the
down for
32nd
like
century.
I'm down for whatever ride. Like I jokingly said, I want him to be the Borg Queen on my stream, but you know, like like that was like something. But like in all seriousness, I would be really impressed if he's just like obsessed with the mirror universe and he's Starfleet intelligence, and that's why they picked him to interrogate Giorgio. You know what I mean? Like that.
The only thing I didn't like about him was that he's wearing a necktie, and the glasses. I like that they explained that. It does look weird. But I like that he's like, oh, they just make me look smart. Like he's kind of like the way he plays that with like this very kind of
dryly humorous kind of.
Not only is it dryly humor, but it puts they needed someone with a big presence to have someone who can kind of like check Giorgio and put her in her place. They needed to do something big like this, and yeah, like the thing with the glasses where he's like he seems so like unconcerned. He's just like, oh yeah, I think they make me look smart. Like he's like he seems like he doesn't see her as a threat or anything. He can just like let his guard down and say something like that.
Or he does, but this is the game they're playing. So is that he wants to project.
And we get to see these future comm badges can do like cool holographic displays. So I like that all of our crew are going to be having these portable transporting pull up a display. But I guess this is like your transporter, your tricorder, your ship's computer library.
Yeah, it's awesome.
A smartphone, but of like the Star Trek version.
Well, given what they could do with the mobile holographic emitters back in the day,
in the 29th century.
Yeah. That it makes sense that you could do even more with these things, but.
Yeah, and they established that there's no going back to the mirror universe for Giorgio here. He says that I thought this was really smart and a good thing to contribute to the Star Trek universe. He said that those crossovers stopped 500 years ago, and the way that they explain it is like our universes used to be like closer together. I don't think like literally, but like in order to like beam back and forth, and now like they've gotten further away, and we can't reach it now. And this might be setting up a possible way for this space Hitler type evil person who ate people character, like to finally have some redemption, is when she realizes like that empire just fell. It was defeated. There's no going back there for me. I'm going to have to do something like very different with my life. You know, I maybe I can't make up for all the terrible things I did, but I can at least contribute to something constructive going forward. That might be like some of the motivation that carries on to Section 31. Just me speculating, but I think this is setting stuff up for that show we'll eventually get, I guess.
She has not yet shown much inclination for reformation.
No, but I think this is like planting the seeds for it. Like now,
it's quite possible. But yeah, I'm just like, it's just funny because like at this point she's kind of reveling in being kind of the fly in the ointment.
And I like season 3 writing her better than season 2, because season 2 I think they kind of made her like too nice. And here like it's like no, like we're going to remember and acknowledge that she has done terrible things and she is a bad guy. And he even calls it out. He's like, oh, you clearly have like some self-motivating reason for why you're helping this crew. I guess you care about someone on the ship, and we end the Giorgio stuff with her. I don't know if she is like, if he like mind controlled her, if he is disguised as her now. Maybe he is a hologram. May like an advanced one that doesn't shut down if you blink at it. Maybe she is. I don't know. What do y'all think is going on with her at the end?
I don't know. I'm not sure I care. If they explain it next episode, fine. But if they're going to turn it into some sort of thing like Detmer, where we have to wonder every week, no, we've got Detmer. I don't need another Detmer. So
yeah, I'm with you on this one. Like, I do not care. Disinterested.
We don't know how that interrogation ends. I like one of the theories I liked is that maybe she's really truly contemplating that thing you said earlier about like how like her world is gone and out of reach forever, and so she's kind of has to make some
so y'all remind me, because I've only seen the episode once. When she came back, what was it she said that was so clearly not typical Georgia, or what?
She's just like frozen. She's frozen in the hallway.
Yeah.
Right. Michael's talking to her.
Philippa, hey, are you okay? And she's just like spaced out of.
Yeah.
Well, given that they've been like the writers seem like they've had a little bit of a tough time this season, occasionally indicating what they wanted us to take from a scene, like like with Detmer, it's like, are we supposed to think it's PTSD? Are we supposed to think there's been some sort of mechanical malfunction because they had it happen to the cyborg person? Like they sometimes are not great at clarifying. This actually could be, I suppose, she is just reflecting on something, and they just were not great at making their intentions clear.
I don't think so. It came off as like very inhuman. Like I think we're supposed to admit that she's either like.
I mean, if
like
he's possessed her, then he's not very good at disguising it. If you're going to stand and staring in place for like 15 seconds and not acknowledging people,
like she's either a hologram or she's
It's David Cronenberg.
I don't know. Well, I guess we'll find out when we find out. But yeah, it definitely like rang clear to me that it's not like we're supposed to think that like something like
what if she
really
so she smashed that comm badge thing, right?
Yeah, but nothing really came of that.
Yeah, what if she just like stealthed a chunk of it out so that she could study it? And what she's actually doing right here is like she's, got part of it up and running, and she's listening to background channels across the galaxy and picking up on secret intel.
It seemed weirder than that. It seemed like, and also like she's concerned about it when she like kind of tells Michael off. She's like, yeah, like leave me alone. Why would you think I'm not okay? And then she's like, oh, what the hell is wrong with me?
Or like, perhaps have I been caught? But there's definitely a look of concern. I read the concern as, oh, have they figured I shouldn't be doing that in public? They're going to figure me out. But yeah, maybe you're right. I hadn't thought about your interpretation. That works. But there was something more than
there could be any number of things other than just they some sort of weird possession type thing. But
it's definitely something weird. It's definitely something weird.
Yeah, it was like Detmer weird, or
I don't
maybe
have
beyond
strong feelings about it yet.
My strong feeling is that I'm uninterested in it, and
Father doesn't like the smell of it. That's what it boils down to.
Oh yeah, why were people smelling people in this? Is that how you check pheromone, like you do your scan now?
He was smelling. Oh, the hologram, Dr. Eli. He was being weird. He was like scanning them. Oh no. They said that. They say what that was, Dave.
Was he a hologram of Joe Biden?
He was checking the.
Sorry, he's our president-elect.
And
I voted for him anyway.
Behavior into the future. But they had him like scanning their brains because he's like, I can tell if you're lying.
Yeah, it's a little intrusive. I'm not sure if I like this part about the future.
I think that's a good idea to have like a lie. I don't think people should like walk into your HQ and like be able to lie to you if you're like.
I did wonder, where are the lie detectors in the future? Surely they could just scan Saru and Michael and say, nope, they're telling the truth. They're really nice.
He's like, I know you're not lying to me, but
okay.
I still don't know if I can believe your story.
All right. And I suppose in this level of future, usually with you, there'll be similar tech that can just imprint false memories and motivations into people to deceive people. So, one of those, the super tech cancels each other out kind of thing.
But we conclude things with the CNC or CIC telling him like, okay, like, I guess you did a good job after all. And then Saru talks about like, okay, this is going to be the Starfleet Renaissance. We're gonna bring in like the perspective that you need, which I thought was kind of like I guess what you were talking about, like is a little too back patty.
I like what's his name's slightly skeptical look in the slides you pulled up. Like, okay.
It did remind me of the introduction, Roddenberry / Captain Kirk's introduction to the novelization of the Star Trek: The Motion Picture, saying that Starfleet has a tendency to accumulate these intellectuals who are overly adverse to risk. And overly beholden to protocol, and that they need some cowboy basically to keep shake things up and keep pushing Starfleet forward, in his opinion,
Yeah,
and
like
in several
that.
other people's opinions. And that made me think of this, that Starfleet has lost its cowboy, and Discovery is here to bring the 23rd century, way of doing things, and shake things up a bit. And I like, okay, I'm kind of down with that. I'm down with that. I like that idea. I maybe would have expressed it a little more clearly, but yeah.
Let's just hope Michael Burnham doesn't get prematurely elevated to president of the Federation and tries a movement called "Make the Federation Great Again" or something that. Let's hope
not. I did like Michael saying, "Oh yeah, we're gonna solve that burn thing." I was like, "Michael, go big or go home, Burnham."
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, no one has been able to figure it out in 120 years, but Michael Burnham's gonna solve it in the remaining 8 episodes.
Challenge accepted, Fathery. Challenge accepted.
I like her optimism. I like no, we're gonna do this. I like and I think that's some of what, with this tired admiral, that's what Starfleet needs, is a little bit of that. So I like the energy of it.
Do you guys think it's weird that both David Cronenberg and the CNC were like, there's just too many theories. We have no idea. We have no leads. We've been investigating this for so long. They both kind of give the same answer, and it makes me kind of suspicious that maybe the Federation caused, or the Starfleet caused the burn or something. I don't know.
Well, that would undermine everything they did here. Like reassuring us that like the Federation's not like broken. This is kind of weakened.
I don't know. There's some scary thoughts I had. That's all.
I don't think the admiral has some big. I despite my comments about this lack of empathy, I don't think he's meant to have an ulterior motive per se. Now Cronenberg, who knows what's up with that guy? He could turn out to be a Q or something.
The character is credited as being named Kovich.
Kovich 19 is what I call him. Also, do you guys think we'll see the president of the Federation at some point?
I'm wondering if there is a president or if there's still like a council or anything. But that's something they can slowly peel away and reveal.
Yeah. I would assume if their Federation constitutions survived, then there's probably a president and a council. But how much power they have relative to Starfleet and whatever's chasing them so bad that they have to hide in a cloaking device all the time is a separate question.
Right. We ended the episode the same way it began, with Saru and Burnham at the window, captain and first officer. And now it started where they're a lone ship, but now they're at the HQ. They're at the heart of Starfleet, and that's the end.
And they say they're looking up, and I love that beat. I love that. I almost cried at the end. That was a great ending.
And I like the mission statement of the Renaissance, even if it's a little weird, like self-appoint yourself to be well, now that we've proven ourselves to you, let me explain how we're going to be the saviors of your entire existence.
Yeah, see, the way you sell that is no, you need somebody who's going to be a little crazy and wild and not follow the you point out how their inadequacies are actually strengths. You don't nominate yourself the founder of the Renaissance if you're trying.
Well, I definitely want the Discovery to get upgrades and holodecks, and there should be a Giotto
after the Calypso thing. They have to hold out till after that.
I guess it depends on what sort of upgrades they do, but yeah, it should be visually consistent with Calypso.
But then after that, go crazy after this. Whole new interiors, refit the hell out of it next season, and get some new uniforms.
They could have holographic interiors that you just change whenever you want, and then that's why it looks like it does in Calypso.
That'd be neat.
Sure. That could be their retro skin.
Let's run through these Gorn eggs. These are all of the Easter eggs, in-jokes, and continuity connections that I found in the episode. Starting off when we arrive at Starfleet HQ and see the ships, Burnham comments, "fascinating," which is the catchphrase she sometimes uses that she borrowed from her brother Spock, first heard in the Carbomite maneuver.
He doesn't have a copyright on it.
among these ships, there's a few Gornegs. We see a new Constitution class, which was kind of a weird thing to say. But
did we really see it? Like, did you?
Well, no, because it's like
half.
It's like half lit. So
yeah, and is it the one with the floating nacelles? Like, I definitely want more.
Yeah, I mean, like, tell them to like turn the lights on at their little lighthouse.
This was the deal Eagle Moss had. You have to buy the model to find out what they look like.
It's an idea what it looks like.
I have to tell you, I do appreciate Discovery a lot more now that I have the model than I did watching the show, and I also am excited about the Fenris Ranger.
I'm gonna mute all y'all while I'm going through.
Oh, sorry. Go.
Done.
I'll mute myself.
But yeah, we have the Constitution class is obviously like the Enterprise from the original series, first seen in The Cage. Really cool Easter egg that a lot of people enjoyed was the Voyager J, which I guess we can assume that the USS Voyager became like a legacy ship name like the Enterprise. It makes sense that they would be like, this really famous ship. And the coolest one was like one of these ships, you can barely see it kind of off to the side, but one of them is labeled the USS Nog. So that was cool. We lost Nog actor Aaron Eisenberg about a year ago. So cool to see a tribute to him. Also, Lieutenant Nelson comments that some of these ships are made out of new neutronium alloy, which was material made in the heart of a neutron star. That was first mentioned in Star Trek in the Doomsday Machine. When we are on Starfleet HQ, they mention the ship, the Chiahoga, has been dealing with the Emerald Chain out by Sigma Draconis. The Chiahoga is a old Coast Guard ship that was transferred to the Navy in like the 20s or 30s. And Sigma Draconis is the name of the planet visited. They went to that star system in Spock's brain. Often considered the worst episode in all of Star Trek. I don't know if that's true or not, but when the Keeley are sick, the doctor at HQ says that it's something going on with prions. That was something that Julian Bashir spent a lot of time talking about on Deep Space Nine. They mentioned it like 3 or 4 different times whenever he's talking about doing like research or writing some paper or something. It's always like prion related. The CNC mentions the temporal war, the temporal accords. The accords were first mentioned back on Star Trek Enterprise with all the stuff with Daniels and the temporal Cold War. Jet Reno asks if Emerald Chain is a Ryzen party drug, a reference to the vacation planet Ryza. And we see some, I guess, star charts and like planets that are labeled. And it's kind of hard to get like a good look at them, but there are a lot of stuff from like every Star Trek show. There's planets from Voyager, planets from Deep Space Nine. They're on here. So we have like the Kazon planet, Founder's first homeworld, Founder's fourth homeworld. There's Haley, a Klingon planet. There's Talos, or I'm sorry, Thalos, which is different than Talos. Neelix's homeworld of Talix. The seed ship itself was named the Tikov. That is named after the Russian astrophysicist in the 1940s who actually invented astrobotany, or the study of plants in space. So that was a pretty appropriate name for the ship that's all about plants in space. And ion storms, of course, originally began in the original series, first mentioned in the episode Court Martial. The Barzan people were first seen in the Next Generation episode The Price. The holographic helmets on the crew members who beam aboard the ship, that was, this one might be a bit of a stretch, but it kind of felt like a callback to the force field belts in the much underappreciated Star Trek the Animated Series. And when they do the interrogation with Giorgio, there's a couple of little tidbits from the Mirror Universe that are brought up. Kovich mentions both April 5th, First Contact Day, which in the Mirror Universe resulted in Zephram Cochran pulling out a shotgun and cutting down some Vulcans. He also mentions the fall of the Terran Empire, which was established in the Deep Space Nine episode Crossover by the Bajoran Intendant. And last but not least is that the Commander-in-Chief mentions the 5-year missions. They no longer have time to or resources to explore. They stopped doing the 5-year missions. It was a really cool thing to say to 23rd century Starfleeters, because as we know from the original series, that's when they had 5-year missions to explore space, the final frontier. And that was all of the Gorn eggs I found. If I missed anything, though, y'all be sure to let me know.
Are we out of our penalty boxes?
You're out.
Now I don't have anything to say.
I'm trying to remember what Michael said after Saru chastised her, but I can't. It's not coming to me. As always, good.
Awesome.
I'd actually misremembered what year it was. I thought for First Contact Day, I always thought it was 2053, and I was like, "Why did they get that wrong?" I need to check that, but no, it's 2063. I'm the one who made the mistake. So.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting if any of us live to. That's only like 43 years away, so it's possible we'll see that. Yeah. I'm probably the youngest, but also like the least healthiest lifestyle. So I don't know what our odds are of making it another 43 years. But
it would be cool if all 4 of us could celebrate First Contact Day together.
Oh yeah, we need to go to we need to go up to Billings or no, where was
it's in Montana, right? But
Bozeman,
yeah.
right?
Bozeman, yeah.
Yeah.
Montana.
You can wheel us out in our wheelchairs, and we'll all have dementia and not know why we're there. But they're like, well, they said to do it in his will. So.
Anyone in our audience should come meet us there, and we'll have a good time. And hopefully the Vulcan show up.
I'm going to put that on my calendar.
You can also have a good time with us next week when we discuss the episode Scavengers. We'll have a conversation about it Friday as part of our weekly TQIF lineup. And speaking of that, everyone should come hang out on Starfleet Boys channel on YouTube in about 30 minutes.
About episode, chapter 11, The Heiress, or Patricia Hearst. Okay, that didn't land at all.
Yeah.
Sorry.
He's talking about another Star franchise.
Never mind.
And in the comments, real quick. It's a small world. Thank you for joining us tonight. She says that she'll be 90 years old, so it's a small world. We're gonna expect you to show up at 90 years old. But
We're
I think
you can rolling in Christopher Pike wheelchairs beeping at each other.
That'll be great. That's what's gonna happen. Yes.
But it's going to be a party.
So be there or be square. And if you can't wait that long to see us again, we'll be around next week, as always, to discuss each and every new episode of Star Trek. But until then, until we meet again, live long and prosper, y'all.
Listen to the Tex-Trek podcast through Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or at tex-trek.com. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/tex-trek. And follow Fathery on Twitter at TXTrek. Please support us by liking our videos and subscribing to our channel on YouTube. Thank you and take care.